Welcome to our podcast, Cry, Laugh, Eat, Making Friends with Your Emotions. I'm not Helen or Daniel, I'm Ruth.
Hello, I'm Helen, and welcome today. It's great to have you with us. And a wonderful thing today is we have a special guest, and his name is Daniel Shine.
Yippee!
We'll wait for the applause.
Well done, Helen. Right on cue.
Right, okay. Welcome, Daniel. It's so good of you to come and be with us today. We're very excited.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to being with you both.
Great.
And your voice sounds so good.
Are you sure?
Oh, positive.
I'm not convinced yet.
Oh, it sounds lovely.
And we always have girl voices. It's so nice to have a lovely man
Do
voice.
you have a man voice?
I'll try and speak deeply throughout the podcast.
Oh, don't you appreciate mine?
No, I don't.
Okay.
So, Daniel, would you like to start by telling us a little something about you or your family?
Absolutely. I was born here on the Gold Coast, and so I'm born to a mum and dad with a younger brother. I'm married to Cheryl, and we have 4 beautiful children.
Lovely.
Who's your favourite?
They're all my favourites.
Oh, good answer.
I'll tell you the truth after.
He's a lovely dad, you listeners out there.
He
Sometimes.
Okay, and I have another question just
Yes.
before we get into your story.
Yeah.
What is your favourite movie and why?
I love action movies, and so the Bourne movies are my favourite. So the problem is I am very good at the beginning of a movie, but as the movie goes on, I fall asleep very, very quickly. So I can watch them over and over again.
Do you ever get to the end? Have you ever seen the end of the Bourne movies?
Interestingly, you asked that because recently they were just on TV and they were on earlier. So I got to see them all. And I'm saying to Cheryl, this is fantastic. I know the ending. And she reminded me, you've seen this about 4 or 5 times.
Oh,
So yes,
that's great.
I've seen the endings and they're very good at the end.
Oh, he's such a brilliant actor,
Yeah,
isn't he?
it was fun. Yeah.
Okay then, so do you want to start sharing your story with us? And every now and then we'll come in and ask a question or two. We'll try to keep quiet.
Feel free
We'll
to
try to
jump
keep
in.
Ruth quiet.
Please don't sing, Helen.
No
okay, then,
promise.
so
I'll
the
take it from here.
The floor is yours, just
Oh,
if you
thank
want to
you.
share your story.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the story that I was going to share with you is around my family, and in particular the family I grew up with. So my mum and dad. I was blessed to be born of good parents, great parents, and especially becoming a parent, I think I've come to appreciate them more and more. But as they've gotten older, and particularly my dad, he was diagnosed with dementia. And that's something I think that's probably very relevant for a lot of people out there today. And so we had the experience of seeing that disease progress in his life and the impact that that has, I guess, on him and on our family unit, his grandkids, and the broader family unit there as well.
Thanks for sharing that, Daniel. What we'd love to know and how we'd like to help our listeners is if you could share with us some of the emotions that you felt during that. What period of time? How long was
So it was
that?
probably a period of about 7 to 8 years. And even before that, probably pre-diagnosis, there were little signs, I guess, that led up to that formal sort of diagnosis there where we'd notice his memory, particularly his short-term memory, starting to decline there. Yeah, so it was a long road.
Can we start with how you felt then at the beginning, at the very beginning when his memory was declining?
I think the emotion all the way through, but particularly initially, is just one of sadness, just when they're not the same person that they've always been, so there's not that sharpness there in terms of recollect. Is that a word?
Sounds good. Yes, 3 people vote. Yes.
And there'd be even little things in that would just sort of, make, I guess, quite sad just in seeing it. And then as the disease progressed for him, and I think for anybody who's suffering themselves or for the family and friends who are part of that, just seeing that unfold is just sad because essentially they're dying before your eyes. And so those parts of them that you know and love are no longer there. And so associated with that, I guess, is a grieving as well for them throughout that whole process.
Very much so. So then really what we're talking about today, the core emotion, is sadness. And sadness, in our book on page 23, it says, I alert you when something is lost, missing, or gone. So that sadness that you were feeling, it was actually notifying you and saying, hey, Daniel, something is getting lost here, something's missing, something's going.
And the tragic part and the difficult part with dementia is all three of those things, the lost, the missing and gone, is that person, their personality, attributes, things like that you just come to know and love and associate with them, just disappears over that period. And for us, there were definitely blessings in that process with Dad where even when he passed away, he died still recognising us, which is a tremendous blessing when you look around at so many people who don't have that. But there is still that sense of loss of that person there. They're gone, they're missing, and they're lost. Yeah.
So like you said before, was your grieving process, had that already started?
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that we probably had done mistakenly, even though Dad's condition had declined before he passed away, it was still probably unexpected when he did die. And we had sort of said to ourselves, well, because he's been sick for so long, we've already grieved. And we came to appreciate very early on that it's really just the beginning of that grieving process, that nothing prepared us for the passing of your dad and your Poppy and your husband and your brother. And
It's huge. In another thing that sadness says from our book is that the feelings that we feel in sadness, they're not easy, but they're necessary. And then it says that they help you to acknowledge your pain, your loss, your heartache. Would you say that that's what it feels like in real life, that sadness, that's what helps you do?
Absolutely. And I think that comes because of love. You love them and love the impact that they've had in your lives. Dad was always, and even with the dementia, was always so gentle. One of the kindest things somebody said when he passed away was he was a gentleman, but he was also a gentleman. And I asked them to say that when I passed away too. I said, can you say that when I die too? And that was him.
Let's not start lying. Daniel.
That's a whole other emotion that'll evoke. But that was a real blessing in that process there, that he was still retained some of those things there. Yeah. But the pain there was real and is real, I think, as well, because of that love that you have for them.
Yes.
How did you deal with that pain?
For us, I think, and I say for us as a family and for me individually, it was through our faith. We're part of a faith community here on the Gold Coast where we believe in Jesus Christ, and that gives us hope, it gives us perspective, and it's interesting because we're talking about the emotion of sadness, but in that emotion we still felt joy in the hope that one day we will be together again and see him in his best way.
I just thought as you said that too, it's interesting because in Isaiah, the Saviour is described as a man of sorrows, a man of grief.
Acquainted with grief,
yeah,
absolutely.
Acquainted. So he knows exactly what you're experiencing and how you're feeling.
And because of that, one of the things I think with the grief and the sadness is we're at a stage in our lives where we're quite busy. Our kids are getting a little bit older and life is full with work and our children and being part of our faith community. And sometimes it's easy to almost compartmentalise the emotion of sadness and grief. And one of the things I've learned is you can't really do that. It's always waiting.
Oh, I love that. Can you say that again, Daniel? Because we were going to ask you that question. What have you learned? Can you just say it really clearly and simply? What have you learned?
I think one of the key things there is that we can try to, or I've tried to compartmentalise grief and say, I'll deal with that here and now on this day at this time, and then I'll close that emotion off. And whilst you can busy yourself with different things or be around different people, the grief is always there waiting. And so acknowledging it, dealing with it, sharing it.
Are you saying that grief sort of makes random appearances and visits?
You said it so much better than me, Ruth. Yes, that's what I'm saying.
But I
love what you said.
I do too, because we sometimes want to put a box and put our emotions in a box and deal with them later because we're just too busy.
Yep.
And they're just too hard. And it made me think of this next line from the book where it says that sadness helps give you time to process your emotions, your thoughts, your memories. So I guess when it comes sneaking back out, do you think that's what it's doing? Did it feel like that for you?
Absolutely. And there are parts there where there's joy that comes there in those memories where you remember fun things you would do as a child with your dad. And he was always so great with us boys when we were growing up. So there's those sort of parts there. And then there is that tinge of sadness as well because those times passed. But it does help in that processing. I love that thought there that the sadness gives us that opportunity to really process what's happened and to remember the good and the joy.
And so it sounds like that sometimes there can be the joy and the sadness all at once mixed in together.
Absolutely. And that's, I guess, the miracle of it, the difficulty of it, the joy of it.
All at
once sometimes, the tears and the happy tears. Yeah.
That's great. Is there anything else you want to share that you've learned? I mean, I would imagine there have been so many lessons in life that you've learned, but is there anything you want to share, another lesson?
I think given that this disease, it doesn't discriminate with dementia and it can hit anybody and it can go for a short while, it can go for a long while. And so in that waiting, one of the things that I just repeatedly came to understand is that God is at work in our waiting. However long or however short that is. There were times I remember, especially towards the end, where I would often just pray to God that His will be done, to let God prevail in our lives and in our families' lives. And so that for me was a great lesson that doesn't just apply here, applies in many aspects of our lives. But I just really came to know that God is at work in our waiting.
I love that, Daniel.
That's beautiful. And knowing that it helped with that sadness, coping with the sadness.
Yeah, for me, I couldn't imagine going through this experience without that perspective and that faith and the hope that provides.
So thinking of it, the end of the sadness, where sadness talks to us in our book, he says, "So don't avoid me, don't numb me, don't drown me." Thinking back about how you shared how for a little while you wanted to put it aside, would you say that's a good thing? Don't avoid it. Don't numb it away. Don't drown it.
As much as we can, and it sounds funny to say, but to welcome it in, because I think in that processing it and working through it and acknowledging it, we can deal with it and not necessarily move on, but move through and
That goes in perfectly with one of the last lines in our book too, which says, "Just accept me, feel me, release me." And it sounds to me that that's what you did.
And for the releasing to happen of the emotion, there's got to be that acknowledgement there first.
The acceptance.
Absolutely.
Even if it's hard,
And we were very fortunate, I think, as a family to have that ability to do a lot of that ourselves together and then to feel the support and love of so many people over that time, which just helps to deal and to process. And
So if sadness as a friend was sitting right beside you, what do you think it would say to you?
Don't hide from me.
Love it. Don't hide from me. Why would you say that?
Probably because as I look back, there were definitely times where I did try to hide from it or not acknowledge it. And mainly because of life circumstances, I'm too busy to acknowledge that or work through it or different things like that.
And I would imagine you were trying to be strong for everyone else, for your family, for your children.
Yeah.
And so, I like that. Don't hide from it. It's wonderful, Daniel.
This has been just wonderful. I so appreciate you. I have a family member who we believe is on the beginning road of this and we're waiting for an assessment. Is there any thoughts that you'd like to share with other people out there experiencing this loss from a family member or someone they love that you think might be helpful? And it doesn't matter what it is, just that you know that might be helpful.
I think with this disease and with the emotion of sadness as well, it's important to never think that we've got to do it alone. And so to have a support network of friends and of family who we can process with, confide in, have our bad days with and talk about our fears was a real help for me.
Well, Daniel, we really, 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 really really appreciate you being here today.
We do.
We do. And I'm just in awe of your experience and your ability to articulate it even, because I know it's still raw for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's only been a couple of years, and that's not long in the timetable of grief. And so I was thinking we need to dedicate this episode especially to your dad. Yeah, Vincent Shine.
Daniel Vincent, he is. Daniel Vincent
Is that
Shine.
Daniel,
Really?
Are you named after?
I am.
Oh,
He would love
Oh,
he
dear.
would love that. Sorry, Dad.
no. I can see you're just like him. I knew him briefly and he was a wonderful man. So
One day when I grow up, I hope I will be like him.
I so appreciate you making the time to be with us and sharing. It's not easy to share our personal feelings, and thank you.
Thank you.
And just in closing, we just want to remind our listeners Daniel's really important message, which is don't hide from it. And I think that relates really to all emotions. Don't hide from them. Don't push them aside. Don't try and put them in a little box, because they will grow when you avoid them. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. And thank you again, Daniel. We love you. And we hope you'll join us next week. Thanks, everyone. See you next week.
Thanks for being with us. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
That's great. Because being alone would, I'm going to take that out.
Yeah.
Sedate the obvious. Being alone would be really hard.
No,
Yeah.
you're so profound.
I hope you appreciate my profundity. Profanity.
Profundity.
Need
Cut a
to be
heap of
so-
it out, Helen.
No.
No.
Oh, this is
this
fabulous. It's
is going to be
amazing.
one of our most helpful, moving ones.
Do you reckon?
Yeah,
Yes,
definitely.
I'm so
I'm
I'm sitting
excited.
here thinking,
Definitely.
should have gone with option B, you two.
And